One Thanksgiving got crazier than usual when our dog, Max, refused to stop barking at the turkey my husband had just caught. I thought the dog wanted to eat a piece, but when I removed the plastic covering, I realized that Max was alerting me to something that made me call for help immediately. My name is Athena, but everyone calls me Ace. 32 years old, Kyle's wife, Max's mother, our dog, and protagonist of a holiday that went from ordinary to surreal in a matter of hours. If someone told me that a turkey could be the center of a mystery, I would laugh. But on that Thanksgiving, that's exactly what happened. The morning started like any other. Kyle, with his usual excitement, went out to get the turkey we had ordered from the organic meat store. "I'll be right back," he shouted, as I was in charge of a culinary mayhem worthy of a reality show. The already turned into an hour, and when he finally walked through the door, he looked disoriented, with messy hair and a forced smile. It took longer than I expected. I had to go to 3 places and help Mom with something. But it's all right. Before I could ask questions, his phone rang. Oh great, Mom's car broke down. I need to get it. And it came out again. Strange, even by Kyle's standards. But as I had piles of dishes to prepare, I let it go. As he stirred pots and adjusted the oven, Max began barking as if the canine apocalypse had arrived. I was between annoyed and worried. "Max, for God's sake, stop it. You're not going to eat raw turkey, okay?" He ignored it and continued barking, aiming at the counter where the turkey rested as if it were his prey. After 20 minutes, I threw in the towel. Okay, I'm gonna open this thing. But no turkey for you." I took the scissors and started removing the plastic. That's when I noticed something strange. Inside the turkey there was more plastic. I reached in and pulled out a bag full of money. 100 bills, thousands of them. My heart raced. "What the hell is that?" I whispered, looking at Max, who was now barking at the bag of money like a live alarm. I picked up the phone with trembling fingers and called the police. Hi, I need to report something strange," I said, my voice wavering. As I waited, Max settled down next to me, wagging his tail as if to say, "Mission accomplished, human." The police arrived quickly. Johnson, an imposing veteran, and Miller, a visibly nervous rookie. Johnson was direct. "Show us what you found, ma'am." I pointed to the turkey and the bag of money on the counter. Miller's eyes widened. "It's a lot of money," he stammered. "Thank you, Sherlock," Johnson muttered. Before I could explain, Kyle walked into the house, accompanied by his mother. He froze when he saw the police. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice strained. "That's what we want to know," Johnson replied, crossing his arms. "What do you know about this money in Turkey?" Kyle opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Ruth, his mother, shoved him on the shoulder. "Hurry up, boy. Okay. It's mine. The money is mine," he confessed, crestfallen. "Yours. Why in Peru?" My voice was on the verge of hysteria. He sighed, running his hand through his hair. "I wanted to surprise you, Ace. I saved this money for us to travel to Hawaii." I only remembered him in the car after picking up the turkey. "I didn't want you to find out, so I hid it in Peru. It seemed like a good idea at the time." I was speechless. Ruth shook her head incredulously. "You're lucky if she doesn't leave you after that, Kyle." The cops laughed. Johnson almost cried with laughter. "Son, I've seen a lot, but money hidden in a turkey is new." In the end, the money was verified, the cops left, and Kyle survived the dinner, but not without family jokes. Max, the hero of the day, won a worthy feast. And me. I was convinced to forgive him. After all, Hawaii was waiting for us. And now, as I look at Max sleeping at my feet, I think, never underestimate a dog. They always know. I was still digesting the insanity of Thanksgiving when something nudged me. Why the hell was Max so agitated about that turkey? Yes, money explained some of the behavior, but not enough. He wasn't trained to sniff out money, much less to freak out like that for something hidden. My instincts said there was more there. The next morning, while Kyle slept like a rock, deservedly mocked by the whole family the night before, I decided to take a closer look at the turkey. Max was on my trail, more attentive than ever. The kitchen still had remnants of the chaos of the previous day. Piled up platters, gravy stains, and the turkey, now just a carcass, waiting to be discarded. "'Kay, Max, what's wrong? Is there anything else here?" I asked, trying to relax. But the way he stood in an alert position, ears up, made my spine freeze. I grabbed a knife and started examining the bird again. Nothing. Only skin, bones, and leftover filling. It must be my paranoia. "Or yours," I joked, pointing to Max. He replied with a firm bark, as if to say, "Keep going." That's when I noticed something different. Below the main cavity, near the spine, I felt a hard volume, as if something was stuck there. My throat dried up. Carefully I cut deeper. And there it was. A small device encased in plastic. It looked like a chip or a kind of tracker. "What the hell is this?" I murmured, feeling my heart race. Max let out another bark, lower this time, but charged with urgency. He knew. This wasn't just a turkey. Someone wanted that hidden device. And I had just found it. Something told me that the answers were going to complicate things even more. Holding that small device in my hand, I felt as if the kitchen floor was going to collapse. A tracker. Inside a turkey. My brain was hard at work, trying to find some logical explanation. But the more I thought, the more panic crept in. This was no coincidence. Someone had put that there on purpose. Max, next to me, watched my every move. It was as if he understood the gravity of the situation. "Max, what do we do now, huh?" I asked, but he just tilted his head, waiting for my next action. I took a deep breath. I needed help. Or at least he needed to understand what it was before calling someone. I took my laptop, sat at the counter, and started researching. The device was small, but it had a discreet flashing light, which only made me even more nervous. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Kyle, still in his pajamas, rubbed his eyes. "What are you doing there so soon?" "Is it Peru again?" "Ace, for God's sake, I already told you it was just the money," he grumbled, in a tone that mixed tiredness and embarrassment. "Come here, Kyle," I said, showing the device. His expression changed immediately. "That was inside the turkey. Explain to me how a tracker got there." He turned pale, staring at the object as if it were going to explode. I do not know. It was not supposed to have anything but money. That doesn't make sense." Before he could insist, Max began to growl. Not for us, but for the window. And then we heard the sound of tires squeaking in the street. I ran to the curtain and saw a black car parked in front of our house. There were two men inside, looking directly at me. "Who are they?" asked, my heart racing. "I don't know," Kyle replied. But his voice trembled. Chapter 4. The First Threat. My heart was beating so loudly that I could barely hear my own thoughts. The man in the suit remained still, firm, while the brute next to him opened a cold smile, full of malice. "Let's make things easier, Mrs. Athena. We don't want to do it the hard way," he said, his voice laden with menace. Kyle squeezed my arm, as if to pull me away from the window. "Ace, they know your name." "That's no coincidence," he whispered nervously. Of course it wasn't. And as much as I wanted to yell at him, to ask him again what he had done to get us into this mess, I knew that now was not the time. Max barked like an emergency alarm, and it was his courage that gave me strength. I took a deep breath and, with a trembling hand, lifted the tracker so they could see through the window. "That's what you want, isn't it? Who are you? Why was that inside my turkey?" The man in the suit tilted his head slightly, as if studying my reaction. "That's none of your business. Just hand over the device and we'll leave. Nobody here wants trouble." "You're kidding, right? You show up in front of my house, call me by name and want me to believe it? No way." The courage in my voice was a facade. Inside, I was shattered. Kyle tried to intervene. "Ace, wait, maybe you'd better give them that right away and—" "Whoa. Something's not right, Kyle. We don't know who they are or what they want to do with it." The man took 2 steps towards the door. "Last chance, Mrs. Athena. Don't force us in." And then came the sound that chilled my soul. The click of a gun being unlocked. That click echoed through the house like thunder. Max became even more agitated, growling and barking as if he could take on the whole world. My instinct told me that things were going to get worse. Kyle was pale, standing like a statue. I knew that if he could, he would have already turned me in along with the tracker. "Lady Athena," the man in the suit continued, his voice unhurried but loaded with menace, "we don't want to ruin your morning. But if we don't cooperate, we're going to have to take more measures." Persuasive. "Okay, that's enough." Kyle exploded, throwing his hands up. "We deliver it and you leave, right? No more problems." I turned to him, eyes burning. "Kyle, you don't understand. They are so armed they know our name. This isn't just about picking up and leaving. What else do they know? What do they want?" He stared at me, speechless. And that's when I decided. With steady hands, I lifted the tracker again, but this time I looked straight at the man in the suit. "If you want that, you have to answer my questions first. Who are you? What does it do? And why was it hiding in my turkey?" The brute stepped forward, but the man in the suit raised his hand, stopping him. "You are brave, Mrs. Athena. But courage does not guarantee security." At that moment, the sound of sirens cut through the silence. A glow of blue and red illuminated the walls of the room. Max barked even louder. The police had arrived. The man in the suit frowned, visibly annoyed. "It seems that time is up for you." He looked at me with an icy smile. "We'll come back, and next time no talks." They got into the car and disappeared. But I knew. This was just the beginning. As soon as the black car disappeared around the corner, the weight of silence fell on the house. The police sirens were nearby, but they didn't bring me the relief I had imagined. Max, always alert, seemed even more restless. Kyle threw himself on the couch, running his hands through his hair, visibly shaken. I, however, had no time to fall apart. "You're going to explain what's going on, Kyle. And this time without getting tangled up," I demanded, crossing my arms. My voice trembled, but I held firm. "I already said, Ace. I don't know who they are. This tracker. This confusion. I'm as lost as you." He stood up, gesticulating like a madman, but his eyes betrayed something else. Guilt. Stop lying. From the moment you arrived with that turkey, everything is wrong. First the money, now this. You're not telling me everything, I pressed, my patience on the verge of ending. Before he answered, the doorbell rang. The blue and red lights of the police flashed through the window. Max ran to the door, barking non-stop. When I opened it, 2 police officers were there, the same as before. Veteran Johnson and Rookie Miller. Is it serious this time, Mrs. Athena? Because that turkey thing was bizarre enough for a lifetime. Johnson joked, though his expression was one of concern. It's more serious than you think, I replied, handing him the tracker. The policeman raised his eyebrow, surprised. Miller looked at the device, then at us. This is advanced technology. Do you have any idea where it came from? I shook my head. I only know that it was in the turkey. Johnson sighed, examining the object. If this came to you, someone wanted you to find it. And it looks like they're not going to stop until they get it back. And that's when Kyle muttered something barely audible. I think I know who might be behind this. The silence that followed Kyle's words was almost deafening. Johnson stared at him like a predator that smells prey, and my heart sank. If he knew something, why didn't he tell him before? Repeat that, I asked, my voice low but full of fury. Do you know who's behind this, Kyle? He looked away, scratching the back of his head. I'm not sure, okay? Just an idea. It could be that I'm wrong. Johnson folded his arms firm. We don't have time for it can be. Speak up, boy. Who do you think is behind this? Kyle took a deep breath and started pacing, clearly nervous. "'Kay, look. A few months ago, a friend of mine, Eddie, asked me a favor. He was desperate, saying he needed to hide something for a while. It was only until he solved some problems, no big deal. I accepted because, well, it was Eddie. Did you agree to hide something without asking what it was?" I asked, incredulous. "And put our house at risk." "I didn't even know I was hiding here," he countered, raising his hands. "I swear, Ace. Completely forgot. Until now, I had no idea that this tracker had anything to do with him." Johnson narrowed his eyes. "This Eddie, what does he work with?" Kyle hesitated but finally replied, "Private security. It deals with technology. And some things that he doesn't detail very well." "Private security, my hat," Johnson grumbled. "This guy is probably involved in high-tech smuggling. And now you're in the middle of it." I turned to Kyle, blood boiling. "Did you put us in danger because of a favor? And now these guys have shown up armed at our door because of you." Max barked, as if he felt my anger. Johnson cleared his throat. "We need to find this Eddie. And fast." Johnson wasted no time. He leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Kyle as if he could forcibly wrench out the truth. "Where did we find this Eddie? And don't come to me with 'I don't know,' boy." Kyle swallowed. His shoulders hunched under the weight of guilt. He works at a security company called Black Vanguard. It's about 40 minutes from here, but I don't know if he's still there. He disappeared from the map after that favor. He hasn't answered messages for weeks." Johnson snorted. "Of course it disappeared. People like that don't leave a trace when things heat up." Meanwhile, Miller typed frantically on his cell phone, searching for information. "Black Vanguard, here. Private security company, supposedly legal, but already investigated for links to smuggling military technology. It looks like your friend is up to his neck." Great, I murmured, my patience almost at its limit. Now we have a futuristic tracker, armed bandits, and a ghost friend. Any brilliant ideas, Kyle? He didn't answer, just lowered his head, visibly embarrassed. Max, faithful as always, growled softly beside me, as if he sensed that something great was coming. Johnson motioned to Miller. We go to this company. If Eddie isn't there, at least we can raise more leads. Wait a minute, I interrupted, raising my hand. Do you think it's safe to leave us here? These guys said they were going to come back, remember? Johnson thought for a moment, then gave a dry smile. You're right. We will take you together. Safer for everyone. Before I could protest, Kyle shook his head. Maybe it's better this way, Ace. If we stay here, we are vulnerable. Against logic, I grabbed my jacket and nodded. That's right. Let's find this Eddie. And he'll have a lot to explain. The police car cut through the cold night as I tried to process everything that was happening. Kyle next to me, nervous, looked smaller in that back seat, as if all that chaos was too heavy even for him to carry. Max, who was in the back seat too, couldn't stop looking out the window, his eyes attentive, as if he were feeling the same tension in the air. Do you think Eddie will be there? I asked, my voice almost cracking. And if he is, what are we going to do? Kyle bit his lips, clearly unknowingly. I don't know, Ace. I just did what he asked. I never thought it would come to this. Yes, but we're in the middle of something much bigger now, I murmured, feeling the weight of the words. What do you think he hides? What does he have that these guys are so desperate to take? He looked straight ahead, his eyes filled with guilt and uncertainty. I do not know. But when he told me about the work, it seemed harmless. Now, all of this is turning into a nightmare. Max growled, as if he understood the anguish of the conversation, and I stopped for a moment, looking at the dog. Something about him was so focused, so alert, that it was almost as if he knew more than the two of us. Police stopped in front of a large, gloomy building with few lights on. Black Vanguard. The name was emblazoned on the facade in large letters. A strange feeling came over me, as if we were entering a minefield, where each step could be the last. Johnson and Miller quickly got out of the car. Come on, Johnson said, his voice cold. Eddie must be here. Stay behind us. I looked at Kyle, feeling a hint of distrust. He looked tense, as if the place was more than he wanted to show. Come on, Ace. There's no turning back now, he whispered. And, without further words, we continue. The entrance door of the building seemed larger than it was, as if the building itself had its own intention to swallow us. The entrance was silent, the atmosphere gloomy, almost as if we were invading a place that should never have been touched. Johnson, without hesitation, knocked the dark glass door, and Miller stood to the side, nervously with his hand on the gun. Me, Max, and Kyle were silent, exchanging quick glances, as if something was warning us to be careful. A shadow moved behind the door, and soon it opened with a low creak. A man in a dark suit stared at us. He looked like nothing more than an ordinary security guard, but something in his cold gaze made me feel that he knew exactly what we were looking for. Can I help? The man spoke with an unsettling calm. We're looking for a certain Eddie, Johnson replied, his voice firm. It's better to call him now, before the situation gets worse. The man didn't move, he just raised an eyebrow. Eddie is not here. It doesn't make sense to look any further. Miller approached, trying to press. He has to be. The information we have is that he is involved with some business. Outlaw. What do you know about him? The man took a step back, closing the door slightly. It's not good to mess with what you don't understand, he said, in a tone that left no doubt. I told you so, Kyle muttered, his voice barely audible. I looked at him, feeling a lump in my throat. What now? He asked, his eyes filled with despair. Before anyone could answer, a bright light shone behind us. The door was opened abruptly, and voices began to be raised. We were surrounded. The blinding lights dazzled us, and the sound of rapid footsteps echoed down the hallway. Max growled softly, as if sensing the storm about to come crashing down on us. The man at the door, who had previously seemed so safe, was now tense. He moved away a little, and it was enough for the door to open fully, revealing 3 other men, all in suits, but with a more threatening posture. I don't know what you're doing here, but you have no idea of the danger you've gotten yourself into, said the first man, his voice deep and charged with a veiled threat. I'm not an idiot, I replied, trying to stay calm. And if you think you're going to intimidate us, you're very wrong. Kyle was next to me, shaking but no longer afraid. Now he was confused, trying to understand what was happening. He turned to the policeman, who looked equally out of place. We need answers now. Officer Johnson took one step forward. Who are you? What are they doing with Eddie? Why does this company seem to be a front? The tension was almost palpable. The other men began to approach, their eyes calculating, as if they already knew what they were going to do next. Max barked louder, alerting us to something we hadn't seen yet. You don't understand, the man in the suit said, once again walking away from the door. What they are looking for will have consequences. And they are not good. At that moment, a familiar voice cut through the air, coming from a corridor at the back. Let them in. They already know too much. My body froze. That voice. It was Eddie's. Eddie's voice cut through the silence like a sharp blade. I froze, my thoughts spinning a mile a minute. Kyle next to me seemed to lose control. He turned pale, his eyes wide, as if he had seen a ghost. And, in a sense, it was exactly that. Eddie, the guy he always said was just another business friend. But now, with the revelation in front of us, the weight of the lies began to fall on me. The men around us have stepped back, leading the way. I knew that if we stayed there, we would discover things we could no longer ignore. Kyle's fear was visible, but I couldn't afford to hesitate. Curiosity, the need to understand, propelled me forward. The back door opened and there he was. Eddie, as always, impeccable, but with an expression I had never seen before. His eyes, normally confident and seductive, were empty, as if he already knew the game had changed. He made a gesture with his hand, as if to say, "Come in." "So, Ace," he said, his tone soft but loaded with something darker. "Have you finally understood that the hole is deeper than you think?" I looked at him, trying to keep my voice steady, but something inside me trembled. "What are you doing, Eddie? What is this place? What's going on here?" He let out a short, almost sarcastic laugh. "I never wanted you to know, Ace. But now, it's too late. You are all on my game. And the worst thing is that they don't even know the rules." The air became dense, as if his words were a poison that was beginning to spread. I felt that we were on the verge of something that we could not even understand. I stared at Eddie, my heart pounding in my chest. He had always had this way of controlling everything around him, but now there was something different. He was no longer that trusted friend, the one Kyle always spoke of so fondly. No, now he was a stranger, someone who manipulated the threads of our life as if it were a board game. What game is this, Eddie? I forced the words out of my throat, trying to stay calm, but inside, panic grew. What did you do to Kyle? With me? He stepped forward, smiling as if he was about to reveal a great truth. I didn't do anything, Ace. Nothing you haven't chosen to do too. Those words cut me like glass. Did I choose? I didn't choose any of that. You just wanted a normal life, didn't you? But the truth is that his life was never normal. From the beginning, you always had to do with this game, and you didn't even know it. Now, it's time to find it all out. He looked at Kyle, who was standing next to me, in a cold sweat. Do you think you can get out of this, Kyle? You're just as stuck as she is. Worse, you were my ally. I will not allow it to hide anymore. Kyle swallowed, trying to compose himself. It's not what you think, Ace. Vocal. It's not about you anymore, it's about us now, I said, my voice shaking. The words went out of control. What's going on here? Why are we being involved in this? Eddie laughed softly, his gaze narrowing. 'Cause Ace, you two are key pieces. And now it's too late to turn back. Dread set in, a sense of claustrophobia taking over. I knew we were about to cross a line of no return. Eddie took a step back, his satisfied smile still on his lips, as if he had put all the pieces of a puzzle together perfectly. And now he waited to see how we would react. He seemed very comfortable with the game in progress, but I couldn't just watch anymore. Every second, a sense of despair washed over me, as if his words were invisible chains pulling me into a darkness I didn't want to understand. Ooh. You're talking like you already know what's going to happen, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But you know nothing about us. What's going on here? What did you do with my family's money? What's this whole money laundering thing? Eddie only chuckled softly, but there was something dangerous about his calm. Oh, Ace, you've always been so hasty to understand things. If he had taken a step back, he would have seen that the truth was already there, right under his nose. My blood boiled. I'm not an idiot, Eddie. I'm not going to stay here while you play make-believe with our lives. Calm down, Ace, Kyle muttered, trying to hold my hand, but I pushed him away. I think he's talking about the company. Those transactions that were always said to be normal. Eddie blinked. All right, Kyle, it looks like she's finally woken up. Now listen well, Ace. You are at the center of it all. All your suspicions, the connections you felt, they were right. I stared at him, my mind a whirlwind. What does that mean? What do you want from us? I want you to understand that we are already at a point of no return. There is no more room for regret. I felt a chill run down my spine. Eddie's words resonated in my mind like an echo. Point of no return. I looked at Kyle, who was clearly in shock. He didn't know what to do, and it irritated me deeply. We were all at the mercy of a game we never chose to play, and now, somehow, I was the most important piece, the key to whatever it was. Ooh. You're saying this is all about us, aren't you? I asked, my voice trembling but determined. These transactions, the hidden money. What's really going on, Eddie? Eddie didn't seem surprised by my reaction. He even seemed pleased, as if he was finally seeing the mask of our naivety fall. Do you really think this whole story revolves around a simple mistake, Ace? No, my dear, you and Kyle are much more than just victims. You are targets. The words fell like heavy stones. Targets. Targets of what? He gave a short laugh, as if the answer was obvious. Of a conspiracy, Ace. From a plan that started long before you and Kyle even met. But now you're at the center of it all. That revelation made my stomach knot. Whatever it was bigger and deeper than anything I could have imagined. I looked at Kyle, but he seemed lost, not knowing whether to tell me the truth or protect himself. Did you know that, Kyle? I forced the words. Did you know everything and never told me? Kyle did not immediately respond. He seemed to be struggling with something inside him. When he finally looked into my eyes, I saw something I had never seen before. Fear. Eddie's right, Ace, he said finally. We're in something much bigger than we can handle. Those words fell in the air like a bomb about to explode. I looked at Kyle, trying to understand what he was saying. We're in something much bigger than we can handle. Those words cut through my soul. Did you know, Kyle? My voice came out louder than I wanted, shaking but impossible to control. Did you know and keep me in ignorance? How could you do this to me? How could he put me in this hole without telling me? Kyle stood there, his shoulders slumped. I've never seen him so vulnerable. He had always been the protector, the optimist, the one who held the ends when things got tough. But now, everything was falling apart and he was there, mute, as if he had lost his words. Eddie, standing there, watched everything with a cynical smile, as if he was amused by our pain. Yes, Ace, you now see the truth. Her husband was involved in a game that he can't get out of anymore. What about you? Well, you're now part of it. I felt my breathing tightening. My heart was pounding in my chest. How, in the name of all that was sacred, could Kyle be involved in this? He has always been so different from that. So honest, or at least I thought it was. Oh, you're lying. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Tell me it's not true, Kyle. Say you have nothing to do with it. Kyle finally looked at me, his eyes sad and tired. Ace, I can't lie to you. What Eddie is saying is real. The ground beneath my feet seemed to crumble. I was alone somehow in the worst lie of all. And Eddie just watched, pleased with his victory. The heavy silence stood between us, denser than I could bear. I felt the weight of betrayal, the pain of knowing that Kyle, the person I had shared everything with, had hidden such a bitter truth from me. He was involved in something much bigger, and me, I was just another cog in this dirty game. I didn't know if I wanted to scream, cry, or just get out of there. It can't be true. I almost begged, my voice cracking. Kyle, please tell me this is a lie. That you're protecting me from something. Anything. But he only shook his head. His expression closed, speechless. Eddie seemed to be waiting for that moment, as if he knew exactly how to disarm me. He approached us, unhurriedly, taking a step back as I tried to process everything. It's realities, Eddie said calmly. You won't be able to escape it. Kyle, and you are now at the center of a web of manipulation and lies. And the worst, it's not just money or drugs. It's much more dangerous. I looked at Kyle, desperate. What else is involved, Kyle? My body trembled, my mind spinning, trying to pick up the pieces. He didn't answer, but it was as if a key had turned inside me. Already knew, somehow. Something else was happening, something that went far beyond money. Something that was at stake, something that involved much more than us. They talked about you, Eddie now said, pointing at me. And this goes far beyond a simple mistake. No, you have to make a choice. Because the truth, honey, is dirtier than you can imagine. I swallowed. What would I do now? Eddie's words echoed in my head like a bomb about to explode. Now you have to make a choice. It was as if everything I believed in, everything I built with Kyle, was being deconstructed in front of me. I wanted to scream, but my throat was dry, without the strength to protest. I looked at him, my husband, the man I loved, the one I believed to be my safe haven. But now, he was at the center of a nightmare that I didn't know how to unravel. What choice, Eddie? I didn't know what else to expect. Kyle was visibly shaken. He had never been good with words in times of crisis, but now he seemed more lost than ever. I saw the weight of guilt stamped in his eyes, and it was as if he was in a deep and endless abyss. I never meant to involve you in this, Ace. His voice came out low, almost begging. But there is no turning back. There is no going back. Eddie approached, his smile of satisfaction awkward. Kyle made his choice. And now, you're going to have to decide whether to go along with it or get out of it all. My body trembled. What would I do? I loved Kyle, but I couldn't sink along with him into this hole. Every second felt like an eternity, and the weight of the decision was crushing my chest. Then my mind cleared, an idea popping up in the midst of the chaos. I needed to protect myself. I didn't know what the future would be, but it would no longer be what I imagined. The decision was in my hands now. The last choice. I'm going to fight, I muttered, not knowing if I was lying to myself or if I had finally made a decision. The decision was made, but the feeling of being swallowed by a black hole did not leave me. I knew there was no turning back. I couldn't turn my back on what was happening. But what scared me the most was what I would have to face to unravel that whole plot. Kyle was standing still, not knowing how to react. The silence between us seemed to scream louder than any words. Ace, please. He started, but I interrupted him. Enough, Kyle. I can't stay in the dark anymore. I need to know what's going on and who's behind it. I didn't look him in the eye. Couldn't. It was as if the ghosts of what he had hidden were suffocating me. Eddie, the manipulator, the man who always seemed to have something up his sleeves, stepped forward. He knew I was at a breaking point. He was having fun with all of this. If you really want to know, Ace, the truth isn't going to be easy to swallow. The air seemed to weigh on me. I wanted to believe Kyle, I wanted to trust him. But the pieces were falling into place so dirty, so filthy, that the truth seemed more like a nightmare than a solution. I already knew, I whispered. I knew something was very wrong. Kyle, you got involved with the wrong people, didn't you? The words came out of me as if they were thorns. Kyle didn't answer. Guilt was written on his face. He knew what was at stake, and what I discovered was far beyond what he could have imagined. Ace, you don't understand. He started talking, but now words didn't matter anymore. What I needed to know, the truth, was out there, and I would go after it. The game was about to change. The weight of the decision crushed me, but now I knew what to do. I would not be another piece in this dirty game. The truth was right in front of me, and I was going to face it head-on, even if it meant losing everything I believed to be true. Kyle was standing motionless, as if waiting for my reaction, but I couldn't look at him the same way anymore. His lies had perched on me like an avalanche. I needed to solve this, not only for me but also for Max. He deserved better than that. You don't understand, Ace. All I did was try to protect us, Kyle pleaded, his voice cracking. He looked small, fragile. But I wasn't going to fall for it anymore. Protect. Is that protection, Kyle? My voice came out sharp like a blade. You got involved with these guys, and now we're at the bottom of a hole. I never asked for it. I didn't ask for any of that. Eddie approached, his eyes shining with a mixture of amusement and revenge. "That's the end of the line, Ace. There is no way out." He was at his own game, and he knew the last move was mine. But I was prepared. I looked at him and, with all the strength I had left, said, "You're wrong, Eddie. The game is over for you." Before he could react, I made the move. A quick call, a denunciation made with the calm that only desperation can provide. The police were on their way. The final piece was in motion. As I watched the despair in Kyle's eyes, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. What had started as a nightmare now became a story of redemption, and I was in control of the ending. The truth always wins in the end. Let us know what you think of this story and share it with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them. See you in the next exciting story.